Unseen. Erosion, how poor asset planning quietly drains performance and profit. The health of your physical assets determines not only safety and reliability, but also the financial return on decades of capital investment. Plants and facilities may be built to last, but without disciplined management, the value they are meant to generate erodes through unplanned downtime and escalating costs. The gap inherently stems from the absence of a structured plan that ties asset performance directly to organizational strategy. Such plans do exist, and at ReVisionz we call them Asset Management Plans (AMPs). They give shape to the discipline of managing assets across their full life cycle by acting as a roadmap that connects daily decisions to long-term strategy. A well-constructed plan weaves reliability into routine operations, translates data into insight, and creates a line of sight between the health of individual assets and the goals of the enterprise. Our team develops AMPs as living frameworks that reveal where hidden costs and risks are accumulating, make performance trade-offs visible, and provide a way for organizations to act with confidence in environments where uncertainty is the norm. In this article, we'll examine how a well-designed AMP reframes asset management as a strategic advantage. It explores the risks of operating without one and the practical ways a structured plan delivers business value. Recognizing the warning signs. Organizations rarely announce that their asset management practices are failing. Instead, the signs surface in the questions that decision-makers cannot answer. While these blind spots are overlooked in daily operations, they point to structural weaknesses, which introduce risks that compound over time. Some of the most common indicators are unclear ownership. Leaders struggle to distinguish which assets are owned outright and which fall under external maintenance agreements. This creates gaps in accountability. Uncertain condition. The actual state of critical assets is unknown, leaving organizations to rely on assumptions rather than verified data when planning maintenance or upgrades. Incomplete cost picture. Lifecycle costs are difficult to trace, with unplanned interventions and inefficiencies quietly draining budgets. Vague risk posture. Vulnerabilities are not mapped or prioritized, which makes it difficult to anticipate failures or manage risk proactively. Conflicting information. Departments produce data that cannot be reconciled into a single version of truth. This undermines the credibility of reports and slows decision-making. When these uncertainties linger, leaders are forced to make choices without a firm ground beneath them. Over time, this pattern shifts the organization into a defensive posture where resources are spent keeping the lights on rather than building resilience. Next, we'll look at how ReVisionz utilizes AMPs to replace these reactive choices with structured strategies. A framework anchored in lifecycle thinking. For context, AMP development at ReVisionz is grounded in our asset management framework, which is a lifecycle-based structure that shapes each stage of AMP development. The framework is deliberately platform-agnostic, which means that it functions just as effectively with legacy enterprise asset management (EAM) systems as it does with the latest digital platforms. That flexibility allows it to be applied in any operating environment without forcing clients into a rigid toolset. What makes this framework distinct is its emphasis on visibility. Risk, cost, and benefit remain in view across the entire lifecycle, from acquisition to renewal or retirement. Each decision is tested against organizational appetite for risk, long-term cost structures, and strategic goals. This line of sight gives leaders the assurance that their choices will not compromise future performance. How we build effective AMPs. ReVisionz builds an AMPs by looking past written policies and into how work actually unfolds. We study how information moves across the organization, how departments hand tasks to each other, and where bottlenecks appear. This reveals the weak points that disrupt consistency and shows where structure is needed to support better decisions. From this foundation, the scattered elements of asset management are brought together into a coherent system. We organized asset data so that it reflects regulatory obligations while still fitting the practical realities of the site. In parallel, our team works with operations, engineering, and maintenance groups to reshape processes that have drifted over time, aligning them with both compliance requirements and business priorities. Once that foundation is established, all of it is drawn into a central digital environment that becomes the single source of truth. This platform holds current procedures alongside the complete record of how decisions were made, giving leaders both accuracy and traceability. This approach introduces features that define a ReVisionz AMP, a single source of truth that replaces outdated copies and conflicting versions. Searchable structures that bring critical guidance to the surface when it is needed most. Governance and analytics that preserve accuracy as assets change, regulations tighten, and priorities shift. The outcome is a living system that moves with the facility. As equipment ages, strategies adjust, or new regulations are introduced. The plan adapts while maintaining integrity. The payoff of a structured AMP. An AMP built with lifecycle discipline will reshape the way organizations view both their assets and the decisions tied to them. It reveals hidden risks so that leadership can act with foresight rather than reacting under pressure. Additionally, reliability will take root over time as a core strength that stabilizes production and safeguards investments. Also, because governance and analytics are embedded from the start, the plan will retain its relevance even as equipment ages or regulations change. For organizations that adopt this discipline, the result will be a disciplined approach to asset management that lowers lifecycle costs, clarifies risk exposure, and strengthens the confidence required to sustain performance in demanding industrial environments. Protecting value across the lifecycle. Assets represent some of the largest and longest-term investments an organization will ever make. Protecting that value requires a plan that links decisions made on the ground to the outcomes that shape enterprise performance. The ReVisionz AMP brings that structure by exposing the hidden costs that quietly drain budgets, builds reliability into everyday operations, and establishes governance that keeps decisions accountable over time. By guiding organizations through this process, ReVisionz provides the clarity needed to make asset management a source of confidence. Leaders who commit to this discipline set themselves on a path towards stronger performance, as they're supported by a framework built on lifecycle awareness and designed for measurable results. Contact ReVisionz today to see how we can guide your digital journey and help your assets deliver sustained value.